Millionaire leaves wife for younger woman. 10 years later, he can't believe who she's with on the flight. He thought he had it all: a successful business, a young and beautiful new wife, and a lifestyle most could only dream of. But life has a strange way of teaching us lessons, especially when we believe we've escaped the consequences of our choices. 10 years after Robert Wilson abandoned his wife and son for a new life filled with luxury and vanity, he thought he had moved on. His past was a distant memory, and the woman who once stood by his side through every struggle was long forgotten. But on a flight to seal a deal that could save his crumbling empire, Robert's world is turned upside down when he sees his ex-wife with a mysterious young man. Who is this man, and why does seeing him beside the woman he abandoned shake Robert to his core? As the flight unfolds, so does the untold story of regret, betrayal, and the ultimate reckoning Robert never saw coming. Can Robert escape the consequences of the choices he made a decade ago? Or will this reunion reveal a truth more shocking than he could have ever imagined? Flashback to 10 years ago, when life seemed perfect for Robert Wilson. Robert Wilson sat in his sleek corner office, the skyline of New York City stretching far beyond his window. His wealth was as towering as the buildings outside. He had built his empire from the ground up. He had everything a man could desire: a beautiful wife, 2 children, and a luxurious lifestyle. But as his success grew, so did his hunger for more. More wealth, more fame, and eventually, more beauty. That's when Vanessa entered his life. Vanessa was everything Julia, his wife, wasn't. Young, vibrant, and full of life. Robert saw her as a symbol of his new status, a testament to his success. Julia had always been supportive, but over the years, she had lost the spark that once attracted him. He began to resent her for staying the same while he soared into the stratosphere of high society. Their conversations grew stale, her sacrifices unnoticed, and soon, Robert found himself drawn to Vanessa's youthful energy. It wasn't long before Robert's secret affair with Vanessa became impossible to hide. Julia, ever the devoted wife, initially tried to ignore the signs. She believed that the man she had supported for years, through every hardship, would never betray her. But when the truth finally came out, it shattered her world. Robert left her, citing irreconcilable differences and seeking the excitement that Vanessa promised. Julia, heartbroken and abandoned, watched as her once perfect life crumbled before her eyes. The struggles of the abandoned. Julia had given up her career dreams to support Robert's ambitions. She had been the one behind the scenes, taking care of their 2 children, managing the household, and ensuring Robert's life ran smoothly. But now, without his financial support and with a broken heart, she found herself at rock bottom. Their children, Alex and Emma, were devastated, their home now divided. For months, Julia struggled. Financial difficulties mounted as she tried to provide for her children. The friends who once surrounded her drifted away, more interested in rubbing elbows with Robert's glamorous new life. Julia had to figure out how to rebuild her world from scratch. But Julia was not one to give up. Slowly, she began to piece her life back together. She took up a small job to support herself, but it was Alex, her son, who inspired her the most. Watching her son navigate the heartbreak of his father's abandonment, she realized that she had to be strong for him. Together, they formed an unbreakable bond. Alex, though young, took on the responsibility of the man of the house. He worked hard in school, and as he grew older, he developed a sharp business acumen, inheriting his mother's resilience. Robert's crumbling world. As Julia and Alex quietly rebuilt their lives, Robert's seemingly perfect world began to show cracks. His relationship with Vanessa turned out to be shallow. What began as passion and excitement turned into frequent arguments over money, status, and lifestyle. Vanessa wasn't interested in the partnership Robert had once shared with Julia. She wanted wealth, parties, and fame, and Robert found himself increasingly isolated from the very things he thought would bring him joy. At the same time, his business, once at the pinnacle of success, started to decline. His focus on vanity distracted him from key decisions, and new competitors began to eat into his market share. Robert's arrogance blinded him to the fact that the world was moving on without him. Investors were pulling out, and his once loyal business partner, Michael, started questioning his leadership. Robert's health also began to suffer. The stress of maintaining a crumbling empire and an unhappy marriage took its toll. He began to lose sleep, gaining weight and losing his once unshakable confidence. His life, once the envy of many, was now in shambles, though he was too proud to admit it. The rise of Alex. Meanwhile, Alex was rising. Under his mother's guidance, he pursued his education with determination. He had learned the value of hard work and loyalty from Julia, and these principles became the foundation of his growing success. Alex started his own business, much like his father had, but with a focus on innovation and social impact. His mother, ever supportive, helped where she could, and together they became a small but formidable team. Alex's business began to grow rapidly, far surpassing his father's company in influence and profitability. Yet, Alex never sought the spotlight, preferring to let his work speak for itself. He built a reputation as a thoughtful, innovative leader, a far cry from his father's arrogant public persona. One of the most satisfying moments for Julia came when Alex invited her to one of his company's award ceremonies, where he was being honored for his achievements. As she watched her son stand on stage, she couldn't help but feel proud. They had come so far from the devastation of Robert's abandonment. The unexpected reunion. 10 years after the divorce, fate brought Robert, Julia, and Alex together in the most unexpected way. Robert, now a shadow of his former self, was flying out to negotiate a potential business deal that could save his failing company. Seated in first class, he glanced up and was stunned to see Julia board the plane, accompanied by a strikingly handsome young man. Robert's heart sank. Could Julia have found someone new? The young man appeared to be much younger than Julia, but they seemed close, comfortable. As they took their seats a few rows ahead, Robert couldn't shake the uneasy feeling in his gut. The years had changed Julia. She was no longer the meek, dependent wife he had left behind. She exuded confidence, and the way she interacted with the young man seemed personal. Halfway through the flight, Robert couldn't resist. He approached their seats, pretending to casually bump into them. Julia looked up, surprised but composed. "Robert," she said, her voice steady. "It's been a long time." The young man beside her turned to face Robert, and in that instant, Robert's world tilted. It was Alex, his son, now grown into a man who looked so much like him when he was younger. "Alex," Robert stammered. I didn't recognize you." The conversation was tense. Robert tried to make small talk, but the truth soon came out. Alex was not only successful, he was about to acquire Robert's company as part of a merger. The young man Robert had abandoned had quietly become a powerful force in the business world. The emotional confrontation. The rest of the flight was filled with a tense, emotional confrontation. Robert, now desperate to reconnect with his son, tried to explain his choices, but Alex remained composed. "You left us for something you thought was better, Dad," Alex said, his voice steady but filled with pain. "But you were wrong. The real wealth was right in front of you the whole time. Julia, silent for most of the conversation, finally spoke. We didn't need your money, Robert. We needed you. But you chose something temporary over something lasting. Robert was left speechless. The young man he had abandoned was now in a position to decide the future of his company. But more than that, he realized he had lost something far more important than wealth. He had lost his family's respect and love, the powerful life lesson. As the plane touched down, Robert was left alone in his thoughts. The weight of his decisions crushed him. The true lesson was clear. True success is not measured by wealth, but by the relationships we nurture and the respect we earn along the way. Robert had spent his life chasing wealth and status, only to realize too late that these things were fleeting. The real riches in life were the relationships he had abandoned, the love he had taken for granted, and the family he had left behind. As Julia and Alex walked away, leaving Robert to confront the consequences of his choices, the final thought lingered in his mind. Riches fade, but love and respect endure.